a gentle giant.
With Johnson Barasa, we flew in Mandela's presidential jet from the Waterkloof Air Force Base in Pretoria to Arusha, Tanzania, for the launch of the Burundi peace process negotiations. For 4.5 hours, we sat with Mandela in his spacious cabin. He asked Barasa and I about our families and our careers, and we asked him about his life and South African politics. With Johnson Barasa, we covered every step of the protracted South Africa-mediated peace process to the end of the war in Burundi.
Johnson Barasa, who helped set up the SABC's East Africa office in 1998, died this week following a heart attack. The award-winning cameraman covered all South Africa's post-apartheid presidents, from Nelson Mandela in the 90s to President Cyril Ramaphosa as recently as January this year.
A lovely soul, and what a loss, not only to the SABC, but to the entire continent. Somebody who was so dedicated. And I remember him telling me that, no, I've told Sophie that I want to retire. I've told Sophie that I want to retire. And Sophie said, not now, Barasa, not now, not now, Barasa, not now, Barasa. And here is a guy who passed on just a day after finishing off a story in the very same Kibera that he held my hand at. When shots were being fired, when there was tear gas, Noma and I running through Kibera, he was there and his camera kept on rolling.
Barasa also covered the 1994 Rwandan genocide, the battle for Kisangani in the DRC, as well as several peace agreements in Africa. Barasa was knowledgeable, yet humble and respected among his peers. He was a teacher and a mentor to many.
He took us through everything in Kenya. We spent almost 3 months there, and it felt like home. So I would say Johnson epitomized what a good or a well-rounded video journalist ought to be, because he could write very well, he could shoot very well, and he could edit also good. This is a great loss for not only for the SABC but for the entire continent.
What will Africa be without Barasa? The man used to be a brilliant storyteller. He used to tell all these stories about the continent. He had such an amazing way of telling stories, and even the way he used to discuss and cover stories, he had this amazing, brilliant
He was committed to his job, he loved journalism, and he brought the passion every single day with every story that he told, whether in Nairobi or any of the other surrounding countries. Some of us got to meet him very early on in our careers when we were still wet behind the ears, but Johnson Barasa carried us through. He made sure that the job was always executed to perfection. And if he wasn't happy, he would make you redo it and do it again. And always making sure that we told the story as beautifully and as perfectly as we could. I remember him from, especially in the aftermath of the elections in Kenya, where we saw untold violence. He made sure that we were safe, but he also made sure that we were able to tell the story and the whole story. Rest in peace, Johnson Barasa.
He taught me Swahili, how to communicate with the local communities of Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya. So we, or the SABC, or Africa as a whole, has lost one of the best camera persons.
Johnson Barasa was not only the cameraman of the SABC in Nairobi, Johnson was the SABC. Johnson protected the SABC. He looked after the interests of the SABC. You know, over the years, the correspondents came and they left, but Johnson was always there. All operations were based on what Johnson was doing. He was also an excellent multi-skilled journalist. He wrote excellent scripts. The only thing Johnson never did was to voice those scripts. He always felt that his voice wasn't good enough. He was an excellent human being. He was a gentle giant.
For Foreign Desk, we have really lost a colleague, a mentor, a leader, our brother, our father.
He leaves behind his wife and 6 children.